Well, Mark, first things first, third in the Youth Alliance League this season. Does that represent success for you?
No, not really, John. We don't really gauge it in that kind of way. We've got a strong group. We've had a strong group this year. I think we saw that by the opening, probably 10, 11 games. We hadn't lost in the opening, 10 or 11 games. But then we go through the process of getting boys out on loan, giving them different challenges they need. That's more important for youth development than actually, trying to create that process. The game is part of the process, but then we've got to get the right work for individuals. It's massively important that we get that. And some of our second years, it was right for them to go out on loan and experience senior football and how that was. So, no, listen. It is what it is, but it's not about winning trophies or trying to win leagues at that level. It's about everybody getting exposed to the football that they need at that time. And within it, because it's an individualised programme, you're looking at individuals instead of creating that team environment. Obviously, it's important. Boys always want to go out and win, don't get me wrong, but it's nice to actually put some of the 16s into that culture at times, and stretch them, see where they are. Similarly, some of your second year scholars, getting them out on loan to go and expose them to first team football. Obviously, we've played a lot of 23s games, so we've had a lot of exposure and a lot of people playing up, which is great because that's what you need. You need the challenge. It's all about the challenge, more about the outcome of winning leagues, winning games on that front. It's more about us getting individuals right and getting their process right. So
how at the end of each season will you measure if the academy is running well, not so well?
Listen, it's all based on trying to get those, as I said, if we're looking at creating individuals more than we're looking at creating teams. It's all about, have we hit the right levels for every individual within our process, within the youth team process? Have they had enough exposure at the levels that they need to be exposed at? And that's when we sit down, we do reviews at the end of the season. That's the type of thing we'll be talking about. And what's been great is we've had a lot of challenges this year. Our 18s have been exposed to, if you look at the Premier League, the way that it's fallen, we've not had the 5 or 6, 7 pros that we might have had in past seasons. So the boys have had to go to places like Villa and have to be exposed to that level. They're probably playing 4 or 5 years above themselves, which is a major challenge in itself. But it's a good challenge, John. It's one of those that sometimes the coaching staff, you have to be a little bit stronger in understanding it's not about just that result on that night. It's about a long-term result that we're looking for through individuals. So, sometimes you've got to look at that and say, I'd rather them have the exposure to actually my coaching staff coming off thinking, oh, we've won every game that we go out and set to play, because that's not real development. Real development, we could create that. We could create a winning environment, but that just doesn't mean everybody's getting exposed to what they should be getting exposed to.
Now you start in the Merit League at Swindon this weekend. Explain how that's different from what you played in.
Yeah, so basically what happens is we're in the southwest region. So we play southwest, which is the likes of Bournemouth, Exeter, Plymouth, or Oxford.
More delightful trips to Plymouth.
Yeah, exactly. Some lovely trips to Plymouth. But then you've got the southeast that play there, a lot of the London clubs that play in and around London. But what happens is after Christmas, the league's split, and the top 5 of the Southwest League play against the top 5 in the Southeast League. You become one league basically. So you're playing against the best sides in both leagues. And then you obviously, if you fall before that and you're in the bottom 5, then you're exposed to that kind of football at that stage, which is really good actually. It's a really good idea. It's a really good principle, because you're not playing the same teams all the time. You get exposed to different things. If we go into London, I know when we go and play the likes of Southend, I know we'll become up against a lot more physicality than maybe in the Southwest. They'll play a bit more football, so it's good exposure, and it gives the boys different challenges and different things to have to deal with.
Part of pre-season was spent at a naval training camp. How did that work?
Yeah, it was brilliant. It was going back a bit, John, from the days when we used to be with Borley, and we had a really good link with the Navy. But we've created a more behavioural model this year that we wanted to follow. where the lads, you know, we look at the words like commitment, but basically try and turn them into actions, try and focus on what that actually really means. And the Navy do a similar thing. That's how they run their system. So we all got together with their staff and said, look, what can we put on for a week or so that will challenge our boys within the same way that you challenge your kind of lads doing what you're doing. And we come up with a programme, and it was really good. The lads got so much out of it. You know, it took them out of their comfort zones in one way or another. All of them come out of their comfort zones, you know, be it standing on a 10-metre diving board having to jump off, or whatever, wherever your comfort zone is, they kind of found it.
Especially if you can't swim.
Yeah, exactly, uncomfort zone. So it's just different challenges really, and how you try and overcome them and how you deal with it, because at the end of the day, trying to build resilient young men is massively important, because listen, football is a tough life, you know that, it's a hard old life, and you have to, whatever they do, the disciplines behind it all is massive, and we just wanted to expose them to different challenges, and it was really good. So hopefully that's, you know, we'll keep that in the programme and we'll build on that.
Because you can't watch over them 24 hours a day, can you?
No, it's about them. Do you know what? I think a lot of it's about them starting to understand themselves, starting to understand where they are and what they need to do and the challenges that they face on an individual basis. And actually the honesty behind looking at it going, I need to develop that and I need to work on it. And it's us trying to align that with them, with the players, to come out with the outcomes. And it's been really good this year. We've had so many, you know, really good things going on with the players that I think they've become massively, you know, more disciplined, self-aware, all those little elements that we took. Because at the end of the day, I set a bit of a challenge to the staff. I said, can we create a bit more independent learning? Because look, as soon as you walk across the white line, you know that, John, a coach can deliver some certain things, but things happen on football pitches, you know, you come up against different challenges all over the place. So trying to be a little bit more self-independent and ask questions, that, you know, that's been a real format. Ask questions, get your answers, go and seek it a little bit more. That's through the play, and because as soon as they walk on the white line, they're the challenges they face week in, week out, day in, day out. So, you know, it's just trying to get that into them. That's going to be a major part of your life.
So much more than football these days.
Massively. And you know what, I'm really, it is, because you got, you know, listen, I think a real key behind a lot of youth development is for me, I said to the lads, there's no such thing as success and failure in youth development, because they're 16, 17-year-old lads when they come in the door. You know, some might leave at 18, some might leave at 20, some might still be here playing in the first team through, but they will leave at some point. So, you know, I said, look, the challenge behind it is to try and create, you know, those boys into looking at how they want to develop and the things that they really want to develop themselves. The life skills program's really opened up. They've done a few different things that have challenged them again, like cooking. They had to cook a dinner, and they've been doing different things just to see, you know, and challenge them own selves in life. And once you start doing that, I think you start coming up with some answers, and you know, and the support mechanisms about it. I think the staff are there to support more than anything else, because these boys are on a life journey. It's not about just this 18-month corridor. It's about you know, trying to look at your life and on where you want to go and the things that you want to try and achieve. And the staff are here to support that. And I think that's where football, hopefully, you know, when I look back, somebody asked me the questions how it was in my day, you know, it just vastly different for where we sit today.
So you're not an old dinosaur, you're not stuck
I'm not an old dinosaur, no, because I think if I look back at my time, I think, you know, what happened to me was pretty well documented, and where it was, and the things that, you know, I had to go through. And when you look at it on an individual basis, I can kind of pinpoint the things that should have happened for me but didn't, and the support that should have been there that maybe wasn't. You know, the programs that should have been in place but weren't, you know. I had technical ability, I had that all day long, but I was quite small, I was quite slight, so I should have been in the gym more, I should have been building up more. I was exposed to a hell of a lot of football really a lot early. I was playing 70, 80 games a season, John. I think you remember back in them days. I was playing for every international team going. I was flying in and then flying out, and you know, I was probably getting exposed far too much, too early, too soon. So it's all about managing them programs, and I think we do that really well nowadays. I think it's something where you look at the individual the planning that goes in and around them is quite important.
So if you'd had this environment all those years ago, would you have had a more successful career?
Well, it would have been a lot more longevity, I think, because, as I said to you, I think I remember playing one season. I think I played about 78 games in that year, and if you think about that, that's between flying, going in, going out, playing, youth team for Ireland, under 21s, under 23s, full internationals, then coming back playing for the reserves, playing for the youth team, playing for the first team. There was no holding people back. There was no real structure to it. You just got exposed to it, and that's fine. But you can, as well as exposing, you can overexpose. And I think, if I look back and I plan through, there was a lot of overexposure going on.
Minoga and Casey have been two of your success stories this season. Yeah. Another two off the conveyor belt?
Yeah, there's still a lot of development to go on, John, and that's the point. It's season by season, day by day, really. Hadji's, he's growing and he's getting into it. Matt, he's slow. He's, he's 6'8", Matt, so you've got to wait for his body to catch him up. It's been one of those processes for Matt. But no, look, there's those two have had a little step in. There's been others, but there's a lot of good players in the building, John. There's a lot of good players in at different levels. So, we're still in a really good place, and the idea is to keep that productivity and keep that mechanism rolling. That's my challenge to the staff. That's a challenge to me, probably from board point of view. You've got to keep it moving on. But yeah. Listen, I think we've got players in the building that can do that, and I've got I'll get my scouting network sorted out, my recruitment network sorted again, and we'll look to look and branch out and see where there's kids around for the future. But the boys that are here, as I said, there's a lot of work going into them and there's a lot of time being spent. So let's hope that they can just keep their feet on the floor, every single one of them. And they will do, because, it's a major part of what we say to them every day. Being humble, respectful is a major part of life, and it's a part of the football world. You've got to keep pushing on every day. It's not one of those things like Hadji signed his pro contract. Yeah, that's great for him. We've got young Harvey Roux that's done the same. But, that's one step. There's a lot of steps to this, it's trying to get that consistency every day, and the work. It's tough, John. So they just got to get on and keep working at it.
We'll come to your scouting network in a minute. Just reeled off these names to you before, like Adam Webster, Jed Wallace, Asmir Begovic, Marlon Pack, Joel Ward, Matt Ritchie, just for starters, people that have gone on from the academy. Yeah,
listen, John, it's one of those things that we kind of quietly go on with business. Do you know what I mean? We don't tend to shout it, because I quite like a consistent level of work around the lads. I don't like it to go up and down. It's got to be really steady and consistent. I say, it's a bit of I call it TCP, a bit of time, consistency and patience with it all. The conveyor belt has been massively strong. Productivity, even in the audit world that we go through now, we've been head of productivity for a long time, especially at our own level. I think we're about 11th overall in all clubs, 92, which are funded. You're talking, up against all these Cat 1 clubs, we come out extremely high as well, because I think it's just the consistency of what we do and what we try and do. And actually, the local boys around the town, they understand it, they understand the environment. We've got a few, we're recruiting a little bit further. But it's been great that this is a real, around Portsmouth it's a solid football area. So the lads understand it, they get the football club, they understand what it's around. And we've just been really, really lucky down the years that we've managed just to keep it on a consistent level. Because I think if you look at these last batch, you look at the Websters, the Connor Chaplins, the Bassey now, you see Bassey and Watmore and Brandon Hunstrup and all the lads that have come through that period of time. Obviously we came through 2 administrations at that time, so it could have been disbanded, but the lovely thing is they all stayed, they all wanted to stay, and they all wanted to play for the football club, and it's lovely to see that they've all gone and done it, and wherever they've gone and moved on. So it's a credit to a lot of people, but it's just that I've been around it a long time, so you know, we know the club inside out.
Now, with every success comes a casualty. Flint and Maloney have gone the other way. What does that mean for them?
Yeah, Josh went through that corridor. He had a real spurt and a real change. For Josh, you can see, you know, that there is a turn with Josh, but he needs to go out and find it a little bit more for himself now. And sometimes you have to be like that, John. You have to be reflective in, you know, sometimes it's a different challenge. For Leon, you know, going to Holland, it's a different challenge for him. Where he sits in, you know, his development, Holland won't be a bad place for him because it's more technical than it probably is physical, if you understand what I'm talking about there. You know, so here the physical challenge would probably be a little bit more for the next 3 or 4 years. For him out there, technically he can work and develop at that pace, and you know, it was probably the right move for both clubs. So you know, sometimes it's not about that. Again, if I'm talking about individuals and where they go, you've got to plan their development pathway a little bit as well.
Now let's talk about your coaching network, because you've got Alfie Stanley from Portsmouth, you've got Owen Deggett from Northern Ireland. So how far does your coaching network extend now? Yeah,
so we have, the department's grown. I mean, we've obviously seen Neil Sillick come in and Sil obviously go, but I've just recruited again. I've got a new head of recruitment, so he's just coming in the building now. But I've also got another one, Oscar, that looks after the young ones. So that's starting to grow. We've got a lot more scouts out on the ground. But a lot of it's contact based as well, John. You know, especially the island links. Obviously with myself, Liam Daish and Sean O'Driscoll, we've all played for Ireland and represented Ireland at some part, so you all have connections in different areas, and it's just a matter of that head of recruitment going out and connections that and contacts that you get in, and phone calls go in, and you need to get on a plane and go and have a look at this boy. And so, you know, it's just about spending the time, really, spending the time to go out and find and trawl.
Listen, the fascination that Brighton have in your staff means you must be doing something right.
Well, yeah. It's about getting people in. You're right, John. You can look at that as a tick in the box or whatever, but they're obviously you know, they're trying to have a push at the moment, and that's fine. But for me, you know, you just keep the core of what you're doing and what you're moving on, and naturally, you know, staff come and a few staff come and a few staff go. That's youth, that's development as well. That happens, you know. Other people pick up challenges that they think is right for them, and they'll go off and do that. But listen, you know, we know where we are, we know what the formula is, so you know, whoever steps into that environment, we're fine with it, because you know, they've got a lot of support around them that they'll probably need to do that job, and they can get on, you know, they can get on and go and find some players. So yeah, you're right. Listen, I don't sit and worry about it, because you know, we know what we're trying to do here. We've been proud of what we're trying to create, and trying to create footballers to go and play in the first team. And if you look at our process amongst a lot of other, as I said, these so-called top flight academies that don't create much at all to hit their first teams, I think it's a record we can be proud of.
Sean O'Driscoll has come in. How has he changed things?
So Sean's come in, and you know, his title is head of coaching and learning. So basically we went around this behavioural model. As I said, I wanted to start with how do we get a bit more independent learning. Sean's got massive experience, we all know that, and it was how can we change it and get a little bit more of that independence out of the players and out of their performance. And we've set about that process. Sean's been heavily involved in setting out that process, and you know, with learning plans and the way that it can go on and processes. And yeah, listen, we've seen some really good outcomes, and I've been really pleased with the work going on.
And working in there, you've got a lot of unsung staff as well that probably never get noticed. No,
listen, that absolutely year on year. I mean, I've had John Slater, my head of education and welfare, has been with me all the way through. John's been here probably since near enough as long as I have, and you know, we have great results for education, and the lads, we always have 100%. John gets them working, and they, you know, whatever levels they come in at educationally, they certainly go out better for it. So, you know, there's a lot of staff like that around, John, that just consistently, slowly get on with it. As I said to you, we're not, you know, I suppose for all the ticks in the boxes that we've had, we could shout about it a lot more. We don't tend to, because we just want to get, you know, we know what the levels are. We just want to be humble about what we do and just get on with our jobs, really, and try and, you know, if the boys, if it's their real dream to be that thing, you know, let's get on and work with you. But wherever it is, you know, hopefully when you walk out the door in 18 months' time, if it's 18 months' time, you're a lot more self-aware, you're a lot more independent, and you're a lot more mature, and you can go out and go and attack the things that you want to try and achieve in life, and I think that's massively important.
The owners are very keen on the growth of the academy.
Yeah.
How does that help you?
Yeah, it does. It's because, and it's all in the planning, John. I keep getting asked, I think everybody's like, you know, when's it going to develop? When's it, you know, when's the real changes going to come in? But listen, they're building blocks that you have to put in place. I've seen it go from, you know, where it is to absolutely, you know, back in the Premier League days where it got blown up into proportion, overexposed. Obviously, I want it to be the best that it can be, and I want it to develop that way. I don't think it's about categorisation. I think it's about best practice, and I think it's about trying to raise the standards of everything we do. But that takes planning. It's not going to change that quickly. But you know, I talk quite a lot with Mark. I sit down with Mark and Tony and Tanya. We all sit down together, and we go through the process of how we're going to develop and how it's going to lead forward. And you know, there's some really good plans going in. You know, stuff that will come out at certain periods of time, I'm sure, but you know, it's about how that growth will happen. And where we are at the training ground, you know, you want to see the facilities grow and things grow, but that will happen. But it just, you know, that's in the planning.
But I suppose what I'm trying to say is it must be nice to have the interest and support of the owners. Yeah,
I think right across. I think, you know, but I think when you look at it, I think, you know, I think the key area is success breeds success, and we've had our fair share of success. I think when you look at it, and you've seen the lads come out and how many there has been, the productivity list. I mean, if it was released, you just wouldn't realise how many boys have actually been in there and have had great careers. You know, so yeah, it's about that. It's about building on that, but you know, it's not one of those things that I want to jump from that to a massive categorisation and throwing everything at it and doing all those things. You do want it to build, of course you do. You know, you want to leave a legacy behind you. You know, I think if I walk out here in 10 years' time and I see nice facilities, good areas to go in, and seen it really developed, you go, actually, that's a really good job done, well done. But as I said to you, I've seen, you know, I watch clubs at the moment spending absolute fortunes, John, and certainly what the comebacks with that are, there's not a lot. So, you know, we'll build. They are offering the fact of, you know, we'll build, but we'll build in our time, and we'll hopefully get to the levels of where we want to go.
So the whole thread through this really is you're not going to see visibly the growth and the development, but it's happening. It's happening, yeah, it's happening. I mean, listen, where that will be in the productivity. Is it still continuing? Is it still moving? Are there players still being exposed? Are there players still getting in? Are you getting the next Alec Basses, Jack Watmore, Ben Close, Brandon Hunstrup? Are they still moving? And if they're still moving on, it's still working. It's still happening. So, you know, around that, if we can put, you know, nice facilities in and add a few bit extras around it, great. But listen, it's not all about these pretty environments. And you know, say if you walk into some of these Cat 1 clubs, they're like hotels, John. I walk in and it feels like a hotel. Yeah. And sometimes you go up to the receptions and you want to ask for, you know, your key for your room when you walk in, huh? But I actually like to feel that it feels like a football environment. It's football talk and football environment, and I think that's how you create young footballers. Just a note, if you walk out of here in 10 years, then you're a much better guy than any with those dodgy knees. Yeah, I might be a bit hopeful there, John. Yeah, I could be a bit hopeful, but yeah.
we'll see when that day happens. But listen, I'm enjoying. I love my job. I enjoy my job, and you know, working with the boys, it's a privilege to work with the lads because they, you know, it's their dream, it's their desires to go out and try. And I don't really think people understand just how hard it is. It's not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to do, but you know, if they got the support around them, that's all that I want from my staff, and that's all I talk about. Give them the best support we can, help them along, and wherever they feel that, you know, they're going to end up or whatever happens to them, we're here. I still get phone calls from, listen, I had one lad come in yesterday, a boy called Andreas Govaz that we had in the Premier League days, and I haven't seen the boy for probably 10 years. But he comes in and he comes, sits and has a cup of tea, he says, "Is it all right if I come down?" And they're the types of things, that's the kind of thing you want to create, and he needs a bit of help on one or two things. And as a staff, we're here to help him still, because he's part of that footballing family that we try and create.
And just going back to one of those players we mentioned, a local lad, Alfie Stanley, 26 goals in 20 games. That's some phenomenal record at any level.
Yeah, it is, you're right. Scoring goals is hard enough, and yeah, he's good consistency. Alfie's scoring goals, and yeah, he's doing all right. You know, it's been steady for him. But as you say, some output, very good output, and still not got another 10 games to go. And I'm sure Alfie will be the first one to say, "Well, I still feel I've probably got another 10 or 15 goals in that little period of time." He'll enjoy the challenge of going into London now and being exposed against different things.
Good. Long may it all last. Thank you, mate.
Okay, John.